What's up, E-Units? This is Kobalt Steel with another Kobalt vs. video. Last time, we looked at one of the most infamous cash-ins to a popular movie in the 20th century, Mac and Me, which made me want to buy McDonald's and Coca-Cola for some reason. Today, we will be venturing into the realm of religious media as we take a look at a furry adaptation of an Old Testament story, Joshua and the Promised Land. Will this movie bring us to the land of milk and honey, or will this movie make us want to condemn ourselves to the desert for 40 years? Let's find out. Before we begin, I want to say that my current knowledge of the Bible is relatively limited, and although I know some things about it, I don't know everything to the point that I can say various scriptures on a whim or anything. Just keep that in mind while I review this movie. I also want to say that since we are kind of talking about movies full force now, I don't particularly like hearing reviewers doing these comparisons to ultra high budgeted super productions with state-of-the-art technologies. I really find those comparisons very ham-fisted and ridiculous. I know I practically did this in my last review, but I want to fully try and avoid doing that from here on out and give movies the fair shot. But with that out of the way, let the adventure across the desert commence. Before we go in, we should have a little history segment on our production. I can't find too much information about this movie, but I do know it is an adaptation of the Battle of Jericho from the book of Joshua and was produced by two people named Jim and Aicha Lion. I hope I pronounced that right. According to the Dove Foundation, take that as you may, this movie was released on September 30th, 2004 on DVD, and as said by the website, took 4 years to complete, and it shows. Although I can't confirm this, it's been said that the movie was made for an unknown film festival and won. If this is true and it won the film festival, then I wonder what the other movies that lost were like. But enough with history, let's see this movie. Warning, spoilers ahead. Our movie begins with a weird purple deflated lion balloon thing talking to us about some kid named Joshua who is playing some motion controlled side-scrolling fighting game, which he lost. While playing with his Wiimote sword attachment, Joshua is confronted by his father, who gets into an argument with his mother, who has a mane, which is weird since lionesses do not typically have manes. Gee, I think you're going a little too far with that. This is a kid's movie. Why are you putting that implication that he might punch her? Jeez. Joshua is sad after he gets yelled at by his mother and goes to bed on this block of marble, only for this thing to appear. Ew! This character wants to wake up Joshua, but since licking his face doesn't work, he tries throwing an energy ball, which does, and he introduces himself as...
Some people call me the best friend, but my real name is Christopher Andrew Eugene Bazioni at your service. But it's okay if you don't like it. Just call me Chris.
Hello, I'm Chris. I like overcomplicating my introductions so people are confused when they meet me.
Based on inferences, Chris is a quote-unquote guardian angel who wants to bring Joshua somewhere.
Where do you want to take me?
I can't tell you that till we get there.
I don't know. My mom will get mad if I'm late for dinner.
Hey, I promise that I will have you back in time for dinner.
Yeah, that doesn't sound sketchy at all. Also, remember this part because it's going to be very important later. Joshua agrees to go and they fly at supersonic speeds to Egypt in a sequence that I think should be funny here.
Here we go. Here we go.
I don't really get it.
If you've never seen one, this is a pyramid. It was built by the Jews, who were slaves of the pharaohs a long, long time ago.
No, that's a myth. They were actually built by paid contractors and skilled laborers with no slavery. Also, can you please transfer yourself to an area that is not on the screen? So Joshua and Chris watched the horribly depicted Egyptians chase after the Israelites, and they decide to try and join up with the Israelites, but not before viewing the presence of God, aka a white hot fireball that Joshua wants to touch. But he's stopped by Chris in this interesting sequence.
Come on.
Man, look at that 4 years with that sound error, and I don't even know what Joshua hit.
Listen, Joshua. Sometimes a no means maybe. I'll grant you that.
You certainly don't sound like a pedophile, Chris. You certainly don't. For whatever reason, Chris puts Joshua inside the biblical Joshua and tells him to cross the Red Sea, running from the Egyptians. Because Chris is such a good spirit, making a little kid walk and run for his life across a sea that could give in at any moment. Good job, Chris.
Hey, kid. Miss me?
Not really. Please go away now.
I'm tired.
Now you know why I didn't take that long walk with you.
Oh, really now? You can go annihilate yourself. I feel horrible for this kid. After that sequence, Deflated Purple Dog Guy explains that the Israelites left in such a hurry that no food or water was brought, so Moses asked for food and they received quail. Joshua also meets Deflated Goat version of Moses, which he is so happy for, he dances weirdly while trying to get some quail for him. However, that quail spoiled, evident by that image, and there wasn't a lot of it, so God gave the Israelites manna, here depicted as a 6-pointed star-shaped cookie that clearly must be infused with some drug because look at Joshua here. However, while there was a lot of food, there wasn't a lot of water, so Moses and Joshua awkwardly walk slide to a rock and strike it, causing water to appear. That water was so refreshing, they all turned into children. However, the evil Amalekites arrived to battle the Israelites, and Moses asks Joshua to fight, in which Chris arms him with a sword and shield. Battle begins and yeah. Thanks to Googleplex, Chris, for subjugating this little kid to the horrors of war, especially with sword combat, one of the most brutal methods of fighting, and potentially giving him PTSD from this. You're a real guardian angel there. The Israelites win, and after that, Moses is told by God that if he follows his laws, he'll like them more than other people. The next day, God tells the Israelites the 10 Commandments, and after bringing them to an odd brick floor in the middle of a desert, instructs Joshua and Moses to go to him.
Come on, we get to go up.
Sorry, kid. I'm not invited. You're on your own with this one. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna see God. What could happen?
I don't know, Chris. I think the problem with that is when people see God, they're usually dead.
Wait here until I return.
Joshua had a really long wait. 40 days he sat there on the mountain by himself.
I promise that I will have you back in time for dinner.
Moses returns with the stone tablets with the 10 Commandments, but upon returning to the Israelites, he blows them up because they were worshipping a giant potato that is supposedly the golden calf, while not knowing how to properly layer themselves in the scene. What the heck were those tablets made of? Dynamite? After forcing everyone to drink water made from the golden potato, Moses returns for another prayer and forgiveness of the people, and, upon returning to the Israelites, has the tablets sealed in the Ark of the Covenant to be brought to the Promised Land. Later, Joshua is scouting out Jericho as it's in the Promised Land, and it turns out that Jericho is a thriving civilization with many people in it. Not good, I guess. However, while there, Joshua gets to witness a baby sacrifice. Perfect for the kids. Also, thanks a Googleplex, Chris. Later that night, Chris meets up with Joshua.
Hi, Chris.
Hey kid, I'm not a genius, you know, but even I can tell something's wrong. What's bugging you?
I don't know, Chris. What do you think is wrong with Joshua, you blasted psychopath? Joshua explains that they can't go to the Promised Land because it's already occupied. How do I make genocide sound like a good idea? Joshua tells Chris that they killed a baby for a sacrifice, and Chris, being the total psychopath he is, makes that the ultimate reason to annihilate an entire city and all of their inhabitants. Thanks, Chris, for encouraging psychopathic behavior.
These people are doing things detestable to God. They murder, they steal, they commit adultery, breaking all 10 commandments, and God has decreed they've got to go.
And how do you know that, Chris? Joshua returns to report the city, and the leaders decide on war because everybody's apparently a blasted psychopath, including Joshua. However, the rest of the group refuse the war, saying that the Jericho animals are far stronger and larger than them, and they prefer going to Egypt since it's safer, I guess. Now, before you accuse me of endorsing ritual sacrifice, I am not. The problem I am having here is the fact that the only option of confrontation these guys are throwing out are war and destroy, with no peaceful alternatives. And the only thing this movie did to justify annihilating all Jericho was a baby sacrifice and Chris making unsubstantiated claims about its citizens. But we'll get to that later. Because the Israelites refused to fight,
These guys had to wander in the desert for 40 years. Why? Because they were afraid to do the right thing. They just didn't know any better. Over the years, many tried to challenge Moses. They didn't want to die in the desert, but God punished them with his awesome power.
Are you for real? 40 years, huh? Thanks, Chris, for not only stealing this kid's life away, but subjugating him to the death of his friends and people he may consider family. Heck, I'm pretty sure he thinks his real family is dead too. So, 40 years later, Moses dies because he disobeyed God for some tiny thing, striking a rock for water instead of calling for it, and after viewing the Promised Land one last time, that part makes no sense to me, Joshua takes over and orders the next generation Israelites to prepare to fight Jericho. The next day, they get ready to fight Jericho, and Purple Dog Balloon is apparently a soldier for God, making a convoluted statement that he is for Joshua. Must have gotten his speaking skills from Chris or something.
Are you for us or for our enemies?
Neither, but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come.
Just say you're for them, Purple Dog Balloon. It's not hard. For 6 days, the Ark of the Covenant encircled Jericho, but on the 7th day, they halted, and the Jericho people do this.
So much for that fearsome god of theirs.
Ah ha 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 ha, ah ha 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 ha, that is hilarious. Ah ha 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 ha. Because of that horrible laughing from Jericho, the Israelites demonstrate what real laughing sounds like, and the army of God with their terrifying faces annihilate Jericho while happy music plays. I'm telling you, that's just weird. After the city is destroyed, a piece of Jericho turns into some flying bear head and flies away.
So, are you ready to wake up?
I thought I was dreaming.
You're telling me this kid experienced 40 years in his sleep? That's beyond illogical.
This is a cool dream.
A dream where you had to deal with physical pain, almost dying, losing your friends, and killing hundreds to thousands of people over issues that could have been false or solved with less violent ways. But again, we'll get to this later. Joshua and Chris warp back to the house with the flying bear head following, and Chris gives a short speech about courage and stuff.
The dream was just a taste of what you can have.
The dream was a taste? Yep, he's gonna grow up as a genocidal maniac from that cool dream.
Anyway, you're late for dinner, which was not my fault.
Yes, it is, Chris. Chris thankfully leaves, but then this happens. Okay, that happens, and goodness gracious, that's a real sword. After that odd sequence, Joshua goes downstairs to have a dinner of chicken, mashed potatoes, and a piece of toast. Some dinner, guys. And then this happens.
I'm sorry I yelled at you, honey.
It's okay. I forgive you.
Darling?
Yes, dear.
I'm sorry I yelled at you. I'll try to spend some more time with you. With both of you.
Roaring sound! What happened? I'm so confused. It's weird. And that was the story of Joshua and the Promised Land, I guess. On to the review. Let's start with the story. Joshua and the Promised Land is a movie that tried and failed to make a functioning story with its source material and is basically full of problems. On the positive, I appreciate the creativity by using animals to, I guess, represent the different types of people in the original story. One of the big problems I noticed with the story is that the movie wants to show this Joshua kid become a courageous character, but we don't really see that happening. Throughout the movie, Joshua doesn't really seem to mind what's going on when he should be scared, except for like one scene with the war. And by the end of the movie, Joshua doesn't seem to display what he supposedly learned from that dream. It's just kind of told to us, and as we all know, visual productions have to show not tell. But we'll get to that. Speaking of the narration, even I can see that the movie practically breezed over or glossed over many details to the original Joshua story, primarily with the narrator just explaining or telling huge parts of the story instead of the movie showing it to us. And the movie practically suffered from it, as it not only forced and rushed Joshua's supposed character development, but it also either caused things to make no sense or change the context of certain sequences for the worst. The movie also wants us to believe that this is some type of dream or illusion where Joshua can learn about courage through the eyes of the biblical Joshua. Although, the movie seems to forget this information and it kind of treats it like it is the biblical thing and not an illusion or something like that. As the story literally says that Joshua waited 40 days and 40 years. And worse, instead of fixing that, the movie tries to cover that mistake by calling the whole thing a dream. Now, I know time feels slower in dreams or something like that, but 40 years? That's flat out impossible. Going back to the context changes, the most notable for me, as you saw in the review, was when the movie grossly simplified the reasoning to destroying Jericho down to a single baby sacrifice. The movie didn't show us other evils the Jericho people did, and it wasn't discussed in that scene where Joshua reports it. Heck, Purple Balloon Dog guy didn't say anything about it. And yet, these people want to just annihilate the entire city over one baby sacrifice? For all we know, this could have been an isolated situation where a brand new religion just introduced or something like that. Heck, why is war the only thing on these people's minds? No one tossed the idea of just forgiving these people or changing their mind about their doings? And what Chris said about the people was just bad. His claims were unsubstantiated, as we did not see him with Joshua when he went to Jericho. For all we know, he probably made that stuff up to sway Joshua into greenlighting a war with them. In fact, I think he actually did. If the movie wanted to tell us the evil deeds the Jericho people were doing, then have the spies tell us the message and provide us with more evil deeds, and not Chris. Looking into the original version, despite being more gruesome and detailed, the justification made a little more sense, since it was officially stated in the book that the Jericho people were doing other gruesome activities for a while, and one can logically infer why destruction was necessary. But here it's just, hey, that person killed someone, let's destroy the entire city, even if we don't know this is a common occurrence. Again, I am not condoning human sacrifice, but the approach these characters were taking was an unnecessary extreme on a situation that they don't even know about much, basing their decisions on unsubstantiated claims. The reasoning behind destroying Jericho is unjustified, and I feel that it's suggesting a message that is, if the other person / group of people have an idea you don't agree with, then the opposers are absolute enemies. My only guess as to why Jim Lyon made all of these weird changes was to hide the gruesome parts and make it more kid-friendly. But that can easily be fixed by just replacing the gruesome elements with more kid-friendly things like water guns instead of swords. And if Jim didn't want to show more of the adult stuff Jericho's people were doing, just have them discuss it in that reporting scene I mentioned earlier, albeit with some more kid-friendly terms or something. Overall, this is just a very poor adaptation of the Joshua story that practically turns Christian heroes into Christian psychopaths, all of which could have been fixed with a few extra drafts and showing, not telling. Or at least telling the audience info with the appropriate characters. But how about those characters? Our main character is Joshua, a young lion who is said to be not very courageous. Again, it was said, not shown. Joshua doesn't really show any signs of being a coward or anything throughout the whole movie, except when he's shocked that he has to fight a war. If the movie wanted us to believe that he's a coward, we should have seen scenes of him in a school failing to deal with bullies properly, or him running from a dog or something. Heck, because he doesn't even seem cowardly, his development into being courageous is practically invisible, especially since it doesn't seem like he changed at all by the end of the movie. And sure, there was that scene where Joshua proudly leads the army to fight Jericho, but whatever he learned from that whole dream or whatever you want to call it, didn't stick by the end of the movie, and even then, because of all his skimming narrations, it comes off as forced on him instead of developed in. Again, a few more drafts could have fixed this problem. Our sidekick is Chris, who is likely a guardian angel. I think he was written to be a cool character, but because the movie forgets several details, he ends up becoming quite a jerk, since he kind of lies, rubs things in your face, and even make unsubstantiated claims about people. Again, he practically swayed Joshua into destroying Jericho for no good reason. Aside from that, we also have the deflated goat himself, Moses. I'm guessing the movie wanted to have him be like this awesome, amazing mentor character or something, but he just doesn't seem to have any real personality to him aside from making weird faces. I also see this tiger character a lot in the movie, but I don't even know who he is. I'm guessing he's Caleb, another biblical figure who is said to be in this movie and didn't die in the 40 years, but he's never referred to by any name, I think. He's seemingly written as a best friend for Joshua, but he pretty much vanished from the scene once Moses died, and he doesn't really have character. Everyone else is just kind of there as background characters with lines. The most interesting are the villainous people, as the movie wanted to make them seem very inhuman, but the attempt was hilarious, primarily with the growling voices and weird laughing. Let's do quality of productions now. If there is one thing I can appreciate about the movie, it's the fact that all the 3D CGI animation in this movie was done by one guy and it took him 4 years to complete, according to the Dove Foundation. And I know, and some of you animators out there also know, that 3D animation is very difficult. However, although I am impressed this guy animated all this by himself, the movie is still not very good looking. Almost everything looks like a flat texture, and the models have very noticeable polygons and very unnatural folds. Along with that, the modeling is very minimal, and although some animals look like what they should be, others like the lion models look more like naked people with slightly disfigured heads. In terms of animation, characters tend to move very awkwardly, as you see here with the running animation. It just looks more like skipping than running. Along with that, there tends to be this improper layering of the models. As you can see here, the dancers are shifting weirdly, and you can see what I'm trying to say here. They're just moving awkwardly, it's not scrolling right. This is a movie where simpler 2D animation or some cartoonier CGI would have been most beneficial, as it would look less awkward and, with the 2D animation, more polished. Aside from that, the music is fine, but it tends to be played at inappropriate moments, such as when Chris leaves. It should warrant sad music, not happy music. Voice acting tends to be goofy. Some characters like Chris and Josh are okay, as well as the narrator, but others, like the Jericho people, have voices that just sound weird. Like the Jericho people having their weird robotic voices, and the Israelites with their seemingly high-pitched voice that fit more of an internet comedy short film than this thing. Let's see how entertaining the movie is. Joshua and the Promised Land is hardly entertaining on purpose. Although it tries so hard and we can see it, the animation and writing is just not strong enough to show off intentionally entertaining dialogue or sequences. The real entertainment is through irony and the horribleness. Older audiences may get a laugh out of how low quality animation is, as well as some of the dialogue, which can get really corny at times. Viewers may also laugh at the horrible voice acting and the poor writing that suggests that Joshua was trapped in this world for seemingly 40 years, only to be warped back in time to the present day in his old self. There's also biblical inaccuracies, which can be funny if you're not sensitive to that stuff. This movie is full of errors, and if you like errors, this movie is your cup of tea. Joshua and the Promised Land is bad, but not offensively bad like Video Brain Quado or Sparkplug Entertainment's movies. Unlike those movies, which were engineered to capitalize on the next big thing, this movie was clearly made by a person who really wants to make a movie, even doing everything by himself, which I can certainly appreciate. Although the effort is highly appreciative and present, and while the movie is very entertaining, the movie still has many issues, from many writing problems to noticeable animation errors, to inappropriate music cues, to lack of character development. Although I am not a filmmaker, I would highly suggest that anyone who wants to make a movie should get other people involved in the production. You can make it by yourself, but it will be very difficult and the results may not be the greatest. Well, that is all for today, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more Kobalt Steel. Until next time, see you all later.
I promise that I will have you back in time for dinner.
No.